Hello! Welcome to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. Nope, you're not crazy. I am not Chat Show. I'm Samm Levine. The kick in the side. You're stuck with me, but that's okay because I've got a fantastic guest today. Kevin is in the frozen north doing comedy joke things in Canada, so he could not be here, but his absence is our gain today, I swear, and not because of me, but because of my fantastic guest. I believe if there is any pre-guest business to get to, I'm unaware of it. So without further ado, with great pleasure, I introduce my friend and a magnificent actor and a magnificent gentleman, Mr. Thomas Ian Nicholas.
Hen, re, row, hen, gar, ner. I heard you when I was walking into the office. Yep. I opened the door. I see you in the kitchen. I just hear "Rookie of the Year."
Yep. He
figured that was.
He said, "Who's the guest today?" Sam, our technician, said, "Hey, who's the guest today?" And I went, "It's the Rookie of the Year." And everybody knows.
Hey, it's the 25th anniversary of Rookie of the Year this year.
Oh, I know. I'm well aware, my friend. I mean, hell, if we could jump right in with that, might as well. So this has been a pretty big deal for me, but probably a bigger deal for you. I don't know. So I'm a diehard Cubs fan. And so Rookie of the Year meant a lot to me as a kid, certainly. And
is that one of the many things you watched on your television in your room?
Oh God,
when you had full access.
Full access.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, I was given a television.
You mentioned that during the Schmodown Awards.
Oh, thank you. Yes, the Schmodown. We'll cross promote podcast in a minute. But
that's not a podcast. I mean,
that's true. It was internet streaming.
Streamcast.
Yeah, I guess we stream this one sometimes. Yeah, no, my folks put a television in my room in the fall of 1993. And Rookie of the Year came out over the summer of '93, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, so it would have been out on cables around that time.
Probably, shortly thereafter. So that's definitely one that led to hundreds of rewatchings in my youth. But
where did you grow up that you're a Cubs fan?
Well, I grew up in Jersey, but
this doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, it doesn't make much sense if where you grew up, you're from Vegas and raised out here. So
well, yeah, but Vegas doesn't have a sports team,
right?
So there's my one argument, and also I was like Henry. I was raised by my mommy. So, there wasn't sports. She, unlike the mom in the movie, didn't play. She wasn't the secret pitcher.
She didn't know how to float it.
She didn't float it. She wasn't the floater.
My dad took me to my first baseball game when I was 8 years old at Wrigley on a family vacation in Chicago.
There you go.
And that was it. I was hooked. And that's where they were living when my brother and I were born.
First field I ever stepped on was Wrigley. So there is my connection. So when you have your first.
Sure. Yeah,
and I'm not talking about American Pie. I'm just saying when you have your first.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, you like how I'm just self-plugging and just leading you along the way.
You're leading me along. What? I don't even know why I have all these notes. So Rookie of the Year. So, I mean, I know that was – you were already a couple of years into your acting career.
Or 6, yeah.
When that happened.
I was a veteran already.
You were a grizzled 12-year-old vet.
Jaded.
When you booked that one, you showed up on set. You're like, is this where we're shooting? This dump? All right. Let me get this cigarette butt out. I
didn't start smoking until a Kid in King Arthur's Court, by the
way. So many jokes that I could make that I would only enjoy and not our listeners yet.
Fair enough.
But we'll get to those. You know what, listeners? Just remember that I said that when we get to the Kid in King Arthur's Court, this will be interesting to you. All right. So wait, I want to talk about the audition that you had for Rookie of the Year, because this is one of those stories that when people are like, hey, how do I get into show business? I'm like, this is a perfectly good example of, well, I gave it my best shot. Well, you didn't try hard enough. So I think you know what I mean by that.
Oh, yeah. It's the fact that you're referring to the fact that I accidentally auditioned for it twice.
That is correct.
And so, if you want to know how to get into the business, it's if 80% of success is showing up, I had a 160% chance of booking that role.
There you go.
I showed up the first time for Linda Lowy, who was casting it, and I had an audition, and I didn't get a call back.
Right.
And I was in the process of switching agents. And so my new agent, because I told you, already a grizzled veteran.
Oh, yeah.
So I was already getting my next agent. So my new agent said, "Oh, we got this appointment for you for Rookie of the Year." And I said, "Oh, well, I've already been on it." And And I didn't get a call back. They said, well, they obviously don't remember you, so go again.
Yep.
So I went again, and then I got the call back, and there I was. And they had audition kids in L.A. and Chicago and New York. I was told that they had seen somewhere in the vicinity. Now I'll do like a low high, like 3,000 to 5,000 kids for the role, to the point where Daniel Stern was going to have his son named Henry in real life, who's now like a California senator, play the role, and he was only 10. But that was like their backup plan.
Wow!
And then along came me again. Yeah. Wow. Whoever dropped the ball on you the first time. No, that would be Linda Lowy. She has a hard time seeing me for parts, but she did end up casting me on an episode of Grey's Anatomy. But, I don't know if she actually knows the story. I don't know if I want to tell her that story. Hey, by the way, you missed me the first time, but luckily I came back again and saved your ass.
Was there any chance that, like, in between the first and second audition, she was like, no, I did see you the first time. You must have taken acting classes or something because you're so much better the second time.
No, it's like my sort of analogy goes to branding. Somehow or another, when she saw me the second time, she probably was like, I don't know, this person seems oddly familiar. But they don't know why.
Right. Oh, like that commercial that you only hear in the background, and then all of a sudden you're driving around, you're like, I do need Arby's. I don't know if they advertise.
My son, who's 6, is convinced that you can get any stain out with OxyClean because they play OxyClean commercials in between cartoons.
That's true. Anything out but hooker blood. Now, I want to keep talking, though, about Rookie of the Year. So, as you mentioned, Danny Stern, friend of the show, by the way. We had him on. He's one of my favorite guests we ever had on this podcast.
Really?
Because we normally do live video.
I want to actually reconnect with Danny. I have not, and Linda wouldn't give me his information.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Yes.
I'm sure we can make that happen.
At least like an email.
Yeah.
Because I've hit him up on his socials, but
Oh no, he's not. Yeah, he's not good at that.
He does do really good at like giving like posts. Mm-hmm. Every post that he has is like 7 paragraphs.
Oh yeah, but connecting with the peoples, I don't think that's his strength. But we had him on the show.
Not while he's sculpting.
No, certainly not. And he showed up in the most ratty of t-shirts and sweatpants and flip-flops to our camera studio. And he was like, I thought you said it was a podcast. And Kevin's like, yeah, I said it was an on-camera podcast. He said, oh, I missed that. Oh, well. And then just did this. It was an amazing chat, but it was just like hanging around Danny Stern's living room.
Yeah.
It was his dress code.
His whole shtick that when he brought Brickma back to life during the Cubs making their race for the World Series was hilarious.
Oh, it was amazing.
People were asking me to do the same, and I was like, it's just not quite the same.
Ooh.
I don't know. Because it's.
I think we should see. I'll tell you what, make me this deal. I don't think it's going to happen because I'm a realist. But if the Cubs should somehow this year, 2018, win the pennant again and make it back to the World Series, I will help you put together a Henry cheering them on piece.
I think we should do that anyway because it's the 25th anniversary.
Really should.
And I went to Fox, not this last November, but the one before, so 2016, through Bob Harper, who produced it. And I said, hey, Bob, with all these reboots and sequels and prequels and, and all these things going on, I said, what do you think about revisiting Rookie of the Year? And now Bob, he worked at a desk at Fox for, 30 years and produced like 450 films from a desk.
Wow.
He was, the president of development. But Rookie of the Year, he was on site. It was his first like on-site film that he produced. And so he has an affinity for it. So he took it to Fox, but he wasn't working there anymore. They spun it around for about 3 months and they came back and said, we want to do one, just not right now. I'm going to disrupt the system.
Definitely.
And I'm planning a launch of a pledge film campaign.
Oh boy.
To make a Rookie of the Year sequel.
Count me in.
So I think we need to do it regardless.
I think you should. I'm picturing, just because the only way to connect with people now is you got to go dark. So I'm picturing, Henry, he's a grown-up now. He's got his own, 12, 13-year-old kid. And, the kid's got the talent, but he just doesn't have the special, gift that Henry was given. So in a really gritty scene, his dad has to violently break his son's arm. You know, like he bites down hard on, on like a tree branch or something. No, this.
This is that you're going way dark.
No, super dark.
I had someone pitch me like a dark thing where he was just like a washed up has been, just trying to get back in the game. I pitched like a much more lovely version.
Well, you have children,
but just a reverse. Like instead of that Henry would be the widower, and then he would have like a hot girlfriend, and then the fiance, right? Sure, but she's a total bitch.
Yeah.
And so then the kid that Henry's got a kid and he breaks his arm, but Henry doesn't want him to do it because he went back to his life as a kid. He's like, don't sacrifice your childhood.
Right.
But the fiance is like, and she plays like kind of like that mean sort of thing. Obviously, you can have like Amy Morton come and punch her out again.
You could.
Because, girls fiting girls.
That's still okay,
That's okay. I mean, I can't hit her.
No, certainly not.
Yeah.
No, Batman can hit a girl,
but I think I've got to research the baseball rules, what position Henry can have, a.k.a. me, on the team with his son as the pitcher, that he can eventually join the game. Isn't there some sort of position where you can kind of like...
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah, maybe like backup catcher or something.
No, not like a backup, but like isn't there something like... Because you have to have a certain number of players. If players get injured and you can't trade in...
Right, so assuming we're talking...
Like he's an assistant manager or something. I mean, I don't know if that's not allowed, right?
I mean, here's the thing. We could try to figure out how to justify this.
Well, that's basically like the equivalent of the hidden ball trick.
Right.
To get Henry back onto the field.
Yeah, no, I was going to say if what Henry did to get the runner out at first wasn't 18 balks.
They didn't show my feet. Tim Stoddard, we had this argument online, I believe. Tim Stoddard showed me where to put my feet so that I wasn't on the plate.
Sure.
But if you look at the cuts, you can't tell because some of them are close on me.
Right.
I promise you my feet that was not a balk.
I'm not an umpire. But
there's no balk.
There's no balk. All right, fine. You say no balk. I say.
I was very aware of that. Tim Stoddard, that's his ring at the end.
Oh,
I should have brought my Cubs ring. Someone just bought me a replica.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cubs championship ring.
Not for me. I got to wear Ryan Dempster's Cubs World Series ring.
But I have a
There's
replica.
nothing humble about that brag, by the way. That was an outright brag.
I did. Yeah, I did. I saw that picture. I liked it.
Oh, thank you.
I hit the little heart.
I appreciate it. That thing is enormous, by the way. That ring weighs 18 pounds.
The replica is no different outside of the cubic zirconium.
Yeah.
I think this one has like Bryant's name on it, which I was looking at. I go, you can't even fit Rowan Gardner on there.
Seriously, those rings.
It'd be like Rowan, and then on the other side, Gardner.
Yeah, I'll spin it around. So I want. So now Daniel Stern directed the movie. Give me at least one great Danny Stern story from directing. Maybe something, a good piece of advice he gave to you, a silly moment you had. There's got to be something.
He was so like, caring and just the opposite, as you know, like the zany character that he played in the film, which wasn't even in the original script. Oh. Brickma was something that he added on, and we kind of always joked on the side that it was his stress relief. The stress that it was his directorial debut.
Yeah,
a $16 million movie for Fox, and having to work with Gary.
Clearly I should have asked him for a Gary story.
Yeah, I have plenty of Gary stories.
Well, you know what? Feel free to segue.
Danny had I remember like Danny pacing the outfield, yelling into a walkie-talkie because Gary had demanded that he have his own walkie-talkie. He felt that he was getting called to set too soon.
Oh, boy.
So if he would come and wait for longer than 20 minutes, he'd head back to his trailer.
Oof.
And it's, a 20-minute, it's like a 15-minute walk to go through the pathway to get to the parking lot.
Yeah.
To get to our trailers, where Gary had plenty of guests with him as well. It's a kids movie.
Sure.
That's what you do.
You have guests.
Yeah. You have friends.
Friends. Good friends of the production.
Right.
Hanging out with them.
No, Gary was really nice to me. He was the nicest to me. Nicer to me than he was to anyone else.
Sure. At least there's that, I guess.
Yeah. He once carried me by my underwear 25 feet across the lunchroom in front of 100 crew members. But remember, he was the nicest to me.
Wow. Well, you know what? He felt like you were tired. And he wanted you to, that's what that said. He wanted you to save your energy for
it was
the
just
cameras.
the eternal wedgie. I remember we were in the dugout. There's one door we couldn't go in. And at some point, like, he wanted to go in this door, and my mom happened to be in the dugout with us. We were waiting to, like, go onto the field, and he slammed her up against the wall. Don't you know who I am? You know.
Oh boy.
And he's like, who are you? And he's like, I'm Tom's mom. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. You know.
Wow. When he says, don't you know who I am, does he sometimes go, don't you know who I am? I'm Buddy Holly. Oh, wait, I'm not. Does he ever have that moment?
I never heard the Buddy Holly thing. I mean, you watch that film and then you see him later and you're like, man, he's just such a different person.
Yeah. Don't do drugs, kids.
Or ride motorcycles without a helmet.
Or ride motorcycles
twice.
Without a helmet. Oh, boy. So I want you to know, as I've been in my adult life since I'm 19 years old, since 2001, I have made it back to Wrigley. I mean, maybe with the exception of once or twice, every single year to catch at least 3 or 4 games over the season. And the amount of times I have coincidentally been there, or let's say the last 10 years now, on at least 4 separate occasions, I've been there at a game when they come over the PA and say, today's guest singer for Take Me Out to the Ball Game, Thomas Ian Nicholas.
No way.
Henry Rowengarten from Rookie there. Every time I hear you with Len and Bob. Well,
did we not have each other's number at that point?
I don't think we did. This started in like 2008, and then I was there again when you did it in 2009.
Yeah.
And then again in 2013 and 2015 and 16.
What are the chances of that?
It's bananas.
You did not tell me this. This is crazy.
I saved it for the show, man. I saved it for the show. And you and I've seen you watch you throw out the first pitch there a bunch of times, and I saw you floated in there once.
So you were there at the 20-year anniversary.
I was.
How funny was that when after I floated it, half the crowd booed me, and then the other half laughed, and then yelled at the half that booed, like, are you an idiot?
I was the one yelling. I was like, no, he's floating it, you idiots! Didn't you see the graceful motion? You people don't deserve entertainment. Yeah, no, it was great, man.
I really this year want to somehow get in touch with Danny and Amy, who lives in Chicago, and try to, like, do a reenactment, like, out on the mound for the first pitch, like, you know, no, shaking my head, shaking, and then the camera pans over and you got Amy Morton in the stands and she's like, float it.
You know what? We have to set all of this up. It's 25 years.
Yeah,
it is about time.
That's my because I've seen, you know, Will Ferrell and they do these, like, you know, pizza to the mound and all that stuff. I'm like, this would be so much better reenacting, like, that moment before the first pitch.
And especially now that they've won the World Series, so there's less. I want to feel like they have a better sense of humor about things now. But I don't know. I would love to see that personally.
Maybe they did before they signed up away $165 million.
Look, I don't want to make this a baseball podcast. There are plenty of those. Let me just say, as a Cubs fan, I have high hopes for you, Darvish, but I have low expectations. So high hopes, low expectations, so I can't be disappointed except a lot. Whatever that means. I'm hopeful that his mechanics will be worked on, and I think it was just a high stress level thing. Look, I don't want to make this a baseball podcast, but I will talk to you a little bit more about baseball. So that is where you fell in love with the game.
Yeah, for sure. Being on Wrigley Field. Yeah. I mean, my first moment of being on Wrigley Field was the shot that we did in between the doubleheader.
Oh yeah, please tell our listeners about that.
So it's so we had 10 minutes and Danny, like, came out on, he had a wireless microphone and he walked around and explained to everyone. Right. And obviously this is 1992.
Right. So the Cubs were in the toilet.
Yeah. I mean, I'll put it this way. When Fox and Bob Harper went to the Cubs administration, not owned by Ricketts at that point, they said, oh, when can we film here at the stadium? They said October. And they go, well, what about postseason? They said, no, we can 100% guarantee you can have the have the field in October. Okay. There will be no postseason. And they knew that in May.
Oh boy. All right.
So he explained to them, we're here, we're doing this movie, and this 12-year-old kid breaks his arm. He explained the plot, and he goes, and he's going to take the Cubs to to win the World Series, and 35,002 people lost their minds. So I was walking from the bullpen to the mound. We had a Steadicam shot doing a full 360.
Yeah.
And I mean, at that point, you're not acting. And he got the whole crowd to chant Henry.
Oh, man.
So I'm walking from the bullpen to the mound, and 35,000 people are all chanting, Henry, Henry.
Oh.
How could I not be a Cubs fan?
I don't know. There's no way
I would have to have no heart.
Yes.
Like just a black
I would also legally
coal.
change my name to Henry at that point.
I mean, for 2 minutes, my name was Henry. I mean,
absolutely.
35,000 people they could have told me anything. I would have believed them.
Oh, that's phenomenal. And so was that the only time you guys shot during the regular season with a big crowd?
Yeah. That was because that was September.
Okay,
I want to say it was like September. It was early on. We were still in pre-production. We hadn't even started. They just kind of pulled everything together for that one moment. They knew it was going to be tough to bring the crowd out.
Oh, yeah.
Because as baseball season ended and football season started, they would put ads in the paper to like, come out, you get free hot dogs, and come freeze, and take your jackets off while we're shooting.
Yeah, pretend it's the middle of summer.
Right, and so when there wasn't a football game, we'd get 5,000 people, and when there was one, we'd get like 500.
Well,
so definitely moved people around to different seats. For all those scenes. So that was like the one money shot of everyone there.
That's awesome, and so that's great. So I know you have two childrens.
I do.
And it's your boy is the older, right?
Yeah, my son is 6.
Okay.
And my daughter will be 2 in April.
So here is the question: has your son seen Rookie of the Year yet, or is he still a little young?
I showed him a Kid in King Arthur's Court last year, just because that one's a little bit more family friendly, not as many adolescent sort of thing. Like he gets the hots for the princess, but he's doesn't
really do.
Yeah, and also my son has like my memory, and when he likes a certain sentence, he'll repeat it a million times like kids do. And there's some lines in Rookie of the Year that you just don't want your 5-year-old going to kindergarten and yelling funky butt loving or oh my god, oh my god, oh my god if he's going to a Christian school, all these things. So I'm going to show it to him this year. He's actually following in my footsteps now. He has started his acting career.
Oh, boy.
He booked his first job on a Fox show, on Zooey Deschanel's show New Girl.
Oh, yeah.
He'll be on the show finale that airs in May.
Oh, my God.
So he's now SAG-AFTRA eligible.
Wow. And, same age as you were, 6.
6, yeah.
That's pretty wild.
He just recently, not to, put any, only to put positive mojo on it, he memorized 11 pages for an audition, and I just got the email today that he got a call back for next week.
Wow.
11 pages.
I was up for that same part, but now I don't want it.
That's fine. It's less competition.
I know what I want him to get it.
It's very big of you, Sam.
I'm not going to tell you what the part was because I just feel like I'm supposed to keep it secret, but I had an audition earlier this afternoon, and to give you an idea of how badly the producers and casting don't know what they're looking for, this is 100% true. The actor who read right before me was Rainn Wilson, and then the actor who was about to read right after me was Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger. The 3 of us were reading for the same part.
What was the look around the waiting room?
It was weird. It was a weird look, and when it's down the road, I'll tell you guys what that was. For those of you who are curious, what the part was. But who do you
think is going to get it?
Honest to God, they should give it to England because it's kind of a genre show.
Right.
So I think it would be a nice, tip of the cap to the fans. But anyway, I don't need to make this about me and my auditions.
Hey, at least you've got auditions.
That's true.
I stopped having auditions, so I just started producing films instead.
Yeah, you did.
So, I got tired of I'm still trying to get auditions.
Well,
so maybe I should just start showing up at other people's appointments.
And they're going to
twice.
I was going to say you might have to put in double the work. All right. So wait, real quick though, I do want to talk about A Kid in King Arthur's Court because at the top of the show I sort of teased this, and because that was your next big thing, I would say, post Rookie of the Year.
Yes,
was A Kid in King Arthur's Court, And there are 2 notable actors in that movie who, at the time, were relative nobodies.
I mean, yeah, one of them had only done one other independent film before it.
Yeah.
The other one, I don't necessarily know if he'd done anything besides stage.
Yeah, I don't think so. And for those playing along at home, that would be one James Bond himself, Daniel Craig, and a future. Is she an Oscar winner yet? She has to be, right? Kate Winslet? She's at the very least a multiple nominated Oscar nominee.
Yes.
I feel like she's won, but I'm not 100% sure. And normally I'm pretty sure about these things. So I'm going to say no. If I'm not sure that she's won, she probably hasn't. Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, she won for the Reader.
The Reader!
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you very much, Sam.
Beat me to the punch, Sam. I was Googling.
That's, oh boy, how do we do this show without him on the regular? I don't know.
It was quick.
Coming in
quick.
the clutch.
I barely got my IMDb Pro app open.
Yep. Okay, so wait. So Daniel Craig and Kate Winslet are your co-stars in A Kid in King Arthur's Court. Where did you shoot this fine motion picture?
In Budapest, Hungary.
Oh, the gem of Europe, they call it. Nobody calls it that.
It was a pretty awesome time.
I imagine it was.
The irony is this. So you think, and now Disney bought it. They didn't actually produce it.
Okay.
So it was Trimark and Tapestry Films. Tapestry went on to produce, they had produced Point Break and the Point Break remake and Van Wilder and different things. Sure. Robert Levy is the guy over there. But so we went to Budapest and I thought, oh, cool. It's a Kid in King Arthur's Court. We're going to go to a real castle in Europe.
Yeah.
It was a set of a castle.
Oh. Why?
I guess obviously because it's just a lot cheaper.
I guess it's
to
cheaper.
shoot in Budapest.
Yeah. Also, like if they try to bring a camera crew into a castle and like, oops, we knocked over this wall. It's like, oh well, terrific. You've ruined a 1,000-year-old building. And
right.
Now the government is after us and we're all going to die. I guess maybe that might have been part of the risk.
We ended up having to ADR most of it as well because I think we were in the flight path of biplanes.
Oh boy.
There was planes over the top of everything. I did 256 lines of ADR in that film.
That's virtually the entire film.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, so it's like you're making a Jackie Chan movie. So
I improved my performance though.
Well, that's good. So the reason the callback was to you smoking. And it's my understanding that you had, I don't know.
How do you know all this stuff?
I do my research, my friend. I don't fuck around. I go in deep.
No doubt. You watched a Facebook Live video, I think.
I couldn't tell you where I found it, but I do days and days of research or one drunken evening. It's not important. But can you tell me a little bit about that story that I'm alluding to?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's legal here in California.
Sure is.
But it wasn't in 1994.
In Budapest.
No, but it was in Budapest.
Oh.
I said it wasn't in California.
Got it.
So yeah, there were wild pot plants growing everywhere.
Ooh.
And so Art Malik, who plays Belasco, he has his own. Well, I don't know if I should. Well, whatever. He has his own plant in another country.
Yeah, where it's totally legal.
Where it's totally not legal. But anyway, so him and Daniel Craig collected I want to say a bathtub full of pot to dry out.
Yeah.
Apparently they smoked it and they said it was awful.
Oh.
Because it's just that wild sort of weed.
Yeah.
But it was legal, 100% legal. We also had Red Bull. I was drinking a lot of Red Bull at the time, and it was illegal in most European countries at the time. It wasn't in the States yet.
Back when that was still made with the blood of bulls?
No, I believe it was. It had some sort of what you get in a vitamin B shot.
Okay.
It was in the ingredient. And that's the thing they removed from it. I can't remember what it's. This is going to sound terrible. I think it's B-52, but not the band. But it's some sort of B element.
It sounds like love. I think the secret ingredient is love. That's what I'm getting from that.
Or the rock lobster. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so Daniel Craig has a bathtub full of weed.
Yeah, and Art. They were in it. They were in cahoots.
They were in it together. All right, I don't want to single them out. But I did love hearing the story about you and Kate, who was only 18 at the time, right?
Yeah.
And you were 14. So in reality, a chasm between 14 and 18 most of the time. But when you're in Budapest, it's, that's nothing.
Yeah.
That's nothing. So what was your experience with her out at one of the local bars?
That happened not in Budapest. That was in a shire outside of London. When I went there because we couldn't find a baseball field anywhere in Europe. There is no baseball fields to be found.
Yeah.
So obviously the opening and closing of that film is at a baseball field.
Sure is.
The closest one we could find was at a military base in England.
Wow.
So we went to England after the shoot, and so when we were there, that's when I went out with Kate and her fiance to a pub, and the drinking age is only 18.
Right.
And she just said, "Oh, go up and order a beer." I was like, she's like, "No, it'll be fine." And sure enough, I went to the bar, ordered a Guinness.
Yep.
And they just poured it for me, gave it to me, no questions asked, and I came back to the table, grinning from ear to ear.
Wow.
And had my first, I guess not legitimate, but my first pint in a bar that I had ordered with Kate Winslet.
That's fantastic. My first beer was a pint of Guinness as well at a horrible restaurant in Boston when I was 13, 14 years old. And I guess my point of the story is it's just lawlessness in Boston.
But did you order that one?
I did not order it. My father ordered it, but I just sat there at the table and drank the whole thing in front of my parents. They were like, "Are you driving?" I was like, "No." They're like, "It's fine."
Your parents asked you that, or if you're driving? No,
my parents asked me if I was driving. That was a weird day. Come to think of it, how did my parents allow that? That doesn't make sense. I have to talk to them about this. But that's those are two great stories, man. James Bond and Rose.
Getting high with James Bond and getting drunk with Rose.
Rose. There was room for Jack on that floating door, right?
Probably.
Okay, I want to make sure we're all in agreement on that. Sam, you agree there was room for Jack on that floating door?
Absolutely.
Okay, just good. All right, so she's just a cold-hearted bitch. There's no segue there. There's literally no segue there. All right, so I want to ask you about a few things, like a 1, 2, 3 punch. Now, I've been following your career for a good long time now, but there were 2 projects on your resume that I did not know about until doing my research, and I got to say I'm pretty interested. It is one of my dreams as an actor. I would love to be able to portray someone who was once a living person. To a lesser degree, I've done that a couple times on Drunk History, but it's not quite the same thing. But you have had the good fortune of, by my count, playing at least 3 living or once living people.
Yes, live action.
Live action.
Because I did this as a test one time, like a contest online, and I got schooled on myself because apparently I voiced some additional real life living people.
Okay. No, I'm talking
but
on
this is
camera
live action.
only.
Yes, I agree with you. I only look at it from an on-camera standpoint.
Good.
But I don't want to get us to get schooled again.
No.
So I'm just clarifying.
Okay, I appreciate that. Anyone who disagrees with us on the internet, please direct all of your negative comments to Kevin Pollak. So the 3 I'm referring to, let's go chronologically. The first one was the Showtime movie from 2003, Stealing Sinatra, where you played Frank Sinatra Jr.
Yes, during his 1963 kidnapping.
Yeah, that was a pretty wild one. That one I saw when it was on TV, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. You and Bill Macy, William H. Macy, but in real life, of course, everybody just knows him by Bill. And then David Arquette, right? Yeah. That must have been quite a thing.
It was a trip too because my grandfather was a stand-up comedian, and he used to open for Frank Sr. And the Jackson 5 and for Frank Jr.
Wow.
So after we shot the movie, I went to Vegas randomly. Like Vince Vaughn was at the show as well. So we were hanging out backstage after Frank Jr. played at the Hollywood Theater in Vegas. And then he came over to the corner of the room I was standing in to say hello and started reciting some of my grandfather's jokes to me.
Oh, wow.
Which was pretty damn cool.
That is pretty damn cool. So I know there was a lot of discussion at the time that they thought the kidnapping might have been staged or hoaxed. What's your take on that?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't staged or hoaxed. Okay. I mean, if it had been, it would have been done
a lot better.
Yeah, a lot better. It was one of those things where that sort of instance kind of haunted him for a long time.
Right.
It was a girl that essentially came into the court and claimed that, and then all of a sudden, everyone kind of claimed that they, knew it had been or whatever it was, but it wasn't. Right. And it also, was strange how he ended up getting back and sneaking into his parents' estate with all the cops there in the trunk of that car, and and so. Obviously, if it had been staged, he would have welcomed the press with open arms. Yeah. Not tried to hide from it.
So. Yeah. Well, I think though I know a lot of people said it was Frank Sr. who had set it all up, and Frank Jr. was an unwilling accomplice. But I don't know. I think it was all real, and I'll tell you why. In a couple of different biographies on Frank, when they were talking about the kidnapping, a lot of it was made. Almost all the contact between him and the kidnappers was done at public payphones. And Frank was so afraid of running out of change that he always carried around 10 dimes so that he'd never run out of change at a payphone again. And apparently, they say it just became something he did out of a nervous habit. And to the day he died, he always had 10 dimes in his pocket.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
So I feel like that is commitment to the bit if it was a hoax.
Well, the kidnapper, Barry, whatever his name is, tried to make the film, and the Sinatra family stopped it.
Yeah.
And he really didn't want ours to be made either. The only reason that it was is because they based the script all off of court transcripts, so it was public information, not, private interviews.
Right.
But one of the reasons why I went to meet him afterwards is I wanted to assure him that even though, Bill Macy, who at the time, and David Arquette had only really done like kind of more comedic style things, that we weren't making fun of him. I said, listen, I just want you to know I played this straight, and I played the fear of it and everything you must have experienced out of respect for you.
That's great to hear. So that you answered my next question. So you did get to talk to Frank Jr. about this.
Yeah, that was why I went to that show in Vegas at the Hollywood Theater.
Very nice.
Which now I think is only David Copperfield's theater. But at the time, in the early 2000s, they were still kind of like renting that theater out. And, they had David Copperfield and Carrot Top. We're both performing
By
there.
the way, the next time you go to use Carrot Top as a punchline, you should know, I believe he is one of the biggest moneymakers in the history of Las Vegas.
I would agree that Scott Thompson, who is a friend, I would agree, yeah. He's actually coming into town soon. If you want to go to the show, let me know. Because I was thinking about taking my wife.
All right. Yeah, if she's out, I'm in.
We can all go.
No. It's got to be just the two of us.
Oh, it's like that.
It's like that.
Oh, hey now.
All right. So the next one, the next biopic I want to ask you about is a film called The Chicago 8, about the trial of the Chicago 8, later the Chicago 7, if you know your history, about the Chicago riots. And you played, of all people, Abby Hoffman.
Yeah.
Now, talk about some big shoes to fill there.
No doubt.
Yeah.
That was a stressful time when I got that one, just because I wanted to do him justice.
Sure.
I went and bought not any of the books he wrote after, but all the books he wrote before that time period. And I wanted to I don't know. I watched D'Onofrio's performance of it, and I didn't dig it, especially based upon some of the videos that I had seen of Abby.
Yeah,
and he kind of got in my head a little bit, the anti-establishment sort of flavor that he had. Yeah, he had some amazing points, and then one of the things I got railed for was my accent. But Abby himself had a floating accent.
Sure.
So my argument to that is in the sense that he was from Massachusetts, but he was such a fan of Lenny Bruce, he kind of had a Massachusetts, like a Boston / New York Jew.
Hey, I got no problem with it.
So there's a little bit of that floating in there. I and this happens for all the characters that I play, become a bit of a walking encyclopedia on set. And so when that was also based on court transcripts.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But there was a lot of times where the other characters didn't necessarily know ad-libs. So I would constantly go on research before the day of shooting what things were actually said in the court.
Yeah.
And then I would throw out lines to the rest of the 7 guys or so. Like, hey, here's some things that were said. Some of them are known who they were. And here, this one's your line. Or here, who wants to take this one? This sounds like you.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the director really loved that from me.
I would love it because if I were the director, I'd be like, hey, he's making my job easier. This is great.
Yeah.
In the edit, no one's going to know he was the one shouting these out. That's great, man. I mean, I don't want to make it a whole history lesson, but if young people who are interested in politics and activism, if you've never heard of the Chicago 8, definitely do some research. It was quite a big deal from your parents' era. Actually, at this point, probably their grandparents' era. Jesus,
No.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Kids these days.
Well, I'm going to guess maybe.
We think the 60s is our parents' era.
Right.
But we're already, 30-somethings.
Well, technically, my mom was on the cusp of that, though. She was born in 56.
All right.
So she wasn't quite.
All right. Well, my folks are a little older. They're like 10 years older than that. But I don't know. My point is, if this sounds foreign to you, look it up because it's pretty damn interesting.
Yeah, look up the Yippies.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one, and this one's got to be pretty awesome. You got to play Mr. Walt Disney.
Yes.
In a film called Walt Before Mickey.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I had a lot of time to research for that one as well. I got the phone call. Do you want to play Walt Disney? Of course I want to play Walt Disney. Yeah. Why wouldn't I? They said, great, you start next week. So lots of time to prepare for that one.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but that one, the book was, it read more like a bibliography, really. Okay. If I don't recommend it as a read unless you want to know, like, all the research and the hardware store receipts and the neighbors' addresses but he was just trying. Timothy Sisane, who wrote it, was just trying to prove that he found all this information and included his sources along the way. And Diane Disney Miller wrote the foreword, so it's the first ever story about Walt that is approved by the Disney family.
Wow!
As opposed to Neil Gambitt's, who they kind of try to push that one off, the whole Disney being frozen and things like that. So, in fact, there's a joke that's why they made Frozen. Oh. So now when you search Walt Disney Frozen, you come up with the movie and not with the Neil Gambit sort of story.
Oh, that's pretty good. I believe it, though.
Yeah.
I believe that. Because there was another film named Frozen that came out the year before, and it was a little indie kind of thriller movie. Yeah. It's a movie about 3 teenagers who get stuck on a ski lift in the middle of the night, and there's no one at the park.
The whole movie takes place on a ski lift.
Yeah, I mean it's super low budget, and yeah, it's the 3 kids stuck up on a ski lift, like a 40-foot drop or whatever, and it's the middle of the night and it's frozen. There's no one there, and how do they get down? And then there are wolves. Evidently, I'm the only person who knows that movie exists, and because when I saw them advertising Frozen, I was like, is this another Jack Frost situation? There was a horror movie named Jack Frost, and then there's the family Jack Frost. I was like, why do they keep doing this? They're going to ruin some children whose parents casually buy the wrong DVD on Amazon.
Now, here's a question for you, Sam.
Yes.
Are you as well-versed in Disney history as you are about baseball and the Cubs?
I am definitely not.
Okay, because I wasn't either. Prior to getting this film, I had no idea of his struggles and trials and tribulations.
I didn't know about it till I was researching your role in that film.
I didn't know about it till I got offered the part.
Perfect.
So, but it was really inspiring because when you think of Disney, you think of a household name and a worldwide business and this thing. But the only thing that supersedes his success is his failures. And I mean, I've failed a lot of times, but I've never been living on the street and eating out of a trash can.
Right.
And he lived on the street actually for about 2 weeks before he came out to California with about $40 to his name, which would be the equivalent of $240.
Yep.
And a suitcase full of clothes.
Take that to the track, man. Turn it into 2K.
There is actually one more person that I portray.
Oh.
It's not out yet, but it's a film directed by James Franco.
Wait,
it stars him.
Is it called Zeroville?
Yeah. Oh, you have that in there?
I do have that in there, yep. No, but please tell me about it.
Well, that one I play Martin Scorsese. It doesn't say it on IMDb because they didn't want to talk about it, but who knows when that film's coming out, so I talk about it.
That's weird. I had that in my notes, and it seems like I deleted it.
Because on IMDb it just says Martin.
Oh, no. There it is. I said, please tell me about Zeroville. That's in my notes.
Oh, yeah. But see, I'm saying it's another real person because I portray Marty Scorsese.
That's fantastic. So I assume you shadowed him for a couple of years, went real method on it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Okay. When I got the phone call, to film in 2 days, yes.
Anytime I get a phone call where they're like, hey, this thing shoots tomorrow or the day after, and it's a friend of mine who's like making the offer, I always immediately ask the same question. Who fell out? I automatically assume they had someone who dropped out at the last minute.
I've made a career out of eating crumbs, my friend, and I can make a mean meal out of crumbs.
I'm the same way.
In fact, with Living Among Us and working with Andrew Keegan, who I've known forever.
Oh, sure.
We've never done a film together. And I knew this story. He didn't tell me, but we ended up talking about it in person. He was actually first choice for Kevin Myers in American Pie.
Wow.
He had the offer. They were negotiating, but there was a schedule conflict because he was already doing
10 things I hate about you.
So I knew there was a schedule conflict. He couldn't do it. It was literally one day.
Yep.
There was a day with Save Ferris, the band, and they couldn't reschedule the band. The director refused. They're like, no, this is an important day, and this is a lot of money going into this.
Gil Younger was
It was the one day.
Wow. How about that?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So we were
Save
one day
Ferris, save Thomas Ian Nicholas.
Oh man. If one day in the other direction, and Will Smith is Neo in The Matrix. That's what we're talking about here, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't know that story.
Yes, Will Smith turned down the role of Neo in The Matrix.
Oh, right, turned down. Well, that's like Eric Stoltz as Marty McFly.
That's very different. He didn't turn that down. All right, wait. So there is a segment on the show.
Eric is a sweetheart, by the way.
He's a wonderful guy, great actor. I've only heard the best stories, and I mean that. So we have a segment on the show called Famous Questions.
Okay.
And I want to use this as a segue to talk about one of my other favorite films of yours. So in this particular one, sometimes I'll ask the question and I'll let you try to guess.
Okay.
But I'm going to have to tell you who wrote it. So Famous Questions, of course, does not refer to well-known questions. It is questions that were written for you by famous people.
Questions that were written for me by famous people.
Yes.
I have no idea what you're even saying right now, but let's do it.
So, okay, here it is. What I'm saying is this is a question written specifically for you by one James Van Der Beek.
Okay.
And the question is, and this is exactly as it's written, James Van Der Beek, great stunt driver or the greatest stunt driver? That's the question.
That's the question.
Yep.
Great stunt driver. He didn't do any stunt driving.
Really?
Yeah.
It certainly would lead me to believe that there was a stunt driving sequence that went on between the two of you on Rules of Attraction.
Yeah, but there was no.
It wasn't.
It wasn't. I mean, they had some things, but no.
All right. Well, then I'll have to ask him about that.
Wait. I don't understand. So he was asked. Or he's asking me that.
He's asking you this question.
He's actually asking me this question.
Yes, I texted with him earlier today, and I asked him, what should I ask Thomas Ian Nicholas? And he said, James Van Der Beek, great stunt driver or the greatest stunt driver?
I don't remember him doing any stunt driving. I mean, we drove away from the house. Mm-hmm. We were driving in like Lake Balboa during the scenes of, talking about the color of the car. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe he drove over this. I don't think he drove. That was him driving over the speed bump. But then there was just the ending scene, which we just rocked into it.
Well, I will have to have him back on the show to get to the bottom of this.
No. The more important question, and well, maybe it's not a question, but the sequence of events with us is that Roger Avery told us two different things and told us not to talk to each other.
Perfect.
And not to do it in rehearsal, but to only do it on the first take in the car. And the first scene I shot of that movie is my last scene in the film. And so Roger, I don't know what he told James,
right?
But he told me to beat the crap out of him.
Wow.
So for 5 hours, I'm like, I just got told by Roger Avery to punch James Van Der Beek.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I can't do this. I was taught as an actor to never harm another actor.
Sure.
But for 5 hours, I'm like, am I going to punch James Van Der Beek? Like, take one, I'm just going to cold cock him in the face. And I'm thinking, he's got other scenes to shoot. Like, how is this going to work for continuity? What's he going to do in return to me? Like, what's going to happen in that car? And so for 5 hours, I was just stressed about this. We go to shoot the rehearsal. I say the line that's there. Nothing really happens. We shoot the first take. And as he's goading me to hit him, I realize I can't hit him. I can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it. So I made a choice, and this is where I defined my character. I was like, if I don't hit him, then I'm a pussy. So I made Mitchell a total pussy.
Wow.
And then I backtracked it because that was the last moment.
Yeah.
So then I was able to do all that other stuff. So when Roger wanted someone to scream like a girl, I was like, well, that's definitely Mitchell because he's the pussy.
That's phenomenal.
So
that's a great story. And let me tell you something that was not lost because he actually gave me no, this is real. I'm not fucking with you. I'm not fucking with you. James sent me a second thing, which was not really a question, but more of a statement.
Okay.
He said, Tom was so good in that movie, he kept true to his character's point of view and never let it become a pissing contest about who was dominating who. Not a lot of young actors are mature enough to walk that line.
Wow.
That is a direct quote from Mr. Dawson
from the Beak.
himself.
From the Beak himself.
From the Beak. So that what you were saying was not lost in the moment.
So he's basically saying, thank you for not punching me in the face.
Thank you for not damaging the moneymaker. I mean, let's be honest. He's a nice enough guy, but that face really is the only thing he's got going for him.
That's it. Yeah, well, he also does have 4 children.
He's starting an army. Him and his wife. The first time he ever showed me a picture of him and his wife and all of their children, I was like, oh, this would make Hitler so happy. The perfect little Aryan family. This is great. They're the most genetically perfect family of blonde-haired, blue-eyed, gorgeous Caucasian people you've ever seen. Luckily, he's got a pretty decent sense of humor on him, so I did not get slugged in the face. But yeah, I loved seeing you in that movie because growing up, of course, I'd seen you in Kid in King Arthur's Court and Rookie of the Year, and that was such an awesome like college age dick turn for you.
Yes,
I really liked that.
That was a fun one. I mean, that's probably my favorite type of acting, which is or my favorite type of improv, dramatic improv.
Yeah,
which you don't get many opportunities to do.
No, you do not.
It exists in comedy all the time, but in drama, it takes another level of training, I think.
Sure,
because it's not just like in comedy, the rule is, don't deny. So for the sake of comedy, always add on.
Sure.
And a lot of people have seemingly broken that rule in a lot of comedy films with improv. And it irks me. But in drama, you've also got to carry the storyline and the arc of the character. So I don't know, it's more complex.
Oh, considerably.
And Roger always opened that door.
That's great.
I'm still looking for the sequel because you know how Bret Easton Ellis has all these like intertwined characters in the films. Glamorama is sort of the unofficial sequel to Rules of Attraction, and Roger's already adapted the script. I'm just waiting for I don't know how old we're supposed to be, but I hope we can just still do it.
I hope so too. Yeah, I would say between that and American Psycho.
Right. We almost got Bateman to do, or I'm sorry, Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Wow, Bateman.
Wow.
Well, that was his name.
Sean Bateman.
Sean Bateman, and then his older brother,
Patrick Bateman.
Yeah. So we almost got Christian Bale to play Patrick Bateman in the phone call scene.
Wow.
But he was unfortunately shooting something else at the time. It wasn't available.
That could have been your second phone call scene with a now megastar of sorts.
Are you referring to Casey Affleck?
I'm not a professional, but I think I'm okay at segues. I am referring to one Casey Affleck in One American Pie, also known as East Great Falls, also known as, wait, let's see if I can remember it off the top of my head, $10 million teen sex comedy that that is guaranteed to make money that studios will hate but audiences will love.
Yes.
Is that correct?
It's close enough.
Close enough? I paraphrased?
I think I might have paraphrased it at this point.
Okay.
Because I think I say like, teen sex comedy that could be made for under 10 million.
Okay. Yeah.
But that audiences will love or studios will hate and audiences will love.
Yeah.
But yours sounds better. I like your paraphrase better.
Okay, great. I did not know that about that script. And so here's another fun, how did you get involved in this story? How did you get involved in the American Pie franchise, Tom?
Well, surprisingly, not losing out the role to Andrew Keegan.
That's a big step.
Thanks to Save Ferris. And surprisingly, actually still auditioning for it, even though I threw that titled script into the trash and called my agent and said, "Why are you sending me porn?"
Right. Well, now this is not a family show, so you can speak explicitly. What was the original opening scene that you read in that script?
The original opening scene did involve masturbation, but it wasn't Jason Biggs' character. Right. It was Kevin and Vicky, and it was Kevin fingering Vicky and her giving him instructions about how to move his fingers. That's about as far as I got, and then I threw it in the trash, promptly into the trash, and said, "Why are you sending me porn?"
Right. And they said, "We're sorry."
My agent, and now I don't know where the truth lies.
Okay.
Because what I was told by my agent at the time was, you know, they really are interested in you and so on and so forth. And so I said, look, I'll read it. I said, I already threw it out. It's gone. Like trash man came.
And this is back in the days when you actually had a physical script if you wanted somebody to read something. Yeah.
So I had to pick up another one. I said, I'll come by the office in Century City and I'll pick up another draft and I'll read it and then I'll give you my honest answer. And I didn't make it that day to get it. So my agent called me at the end of the day. She's like, so? And I'm like, I didn't pick up the script. Yeah. So I'll go because I promised you I'd do that. So I went like super late night, picked up the script in the Dropbox.
Sure.
Because the office is locked.
Yep.
And then went, I think I was staying at my high school girlfriend's house at the time. So I had my audition at like 10:30. She's in Northridge. Now I got to get to like Hollywood. Oh boy. So I set my alarm, woke up at like, 5 a.m., read the script. I'm reading it, laughing my ass off. And I keep like waking her up like, oh my God, this is so funny. And she's like, just go back to bed. And so, yeah, then I went in. I remember Joseph Middleton walked me to my car outside of the room after I'd met with him and Paul and Chris and was like, now, if I take you in, are you going to do it? Because he apparently had known something about me throwing it in the trash and didn't want me to just, not be interested.
Sure.
And I was like, no, I like it. I read it. I'm in.
Wow.
So
that's pretty good. That's, well, I guess then hats off to your agent and Joseph Middleton and you for giving it a second go.
And me for not being booked on 10 things.
And Save Ferris.
And who knows what the truth is of what my agent even said or
I don't know, but I did enjoy that.
I don't believe agents anymore.
Right. Well, I never have. Snake oil salesman, I say, except for mine. They're the best people in the world. Now, I don't want to make you retell all the American Pie stories because in my research, I have seen that if I were to ask you about them, this would be approximately the 8,000th time. But there were some little nuggets that I found that I don't think I've heard you talk about a lot. This one I didn't know till I was doing my research. In American Pie 2, we were supposed to find out who Stifler's dad was.
Ooh, may he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. Talented actor.
And may the first choice also rest in peace.
Oh,
he was not the first choice.
Well, we're gonna need some story.
Yeah. So American Pie 2, originally they wanted to, which I think would have been brilliant, bring Chet, I believe his name was on Weird Science, back to life. With Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
That was who they first went to.
Wow.
He had directed Frailty and was in post-production at the time and said he couldn't get away. And also, how could you split your brain if you've seen Frailty?
Sure.
From doing that
film.
Amazing film, super dark. How could you then go play, essentially what I would say is Chet from Weird Science.
Okay.
And that would have been awesome. So not available. So they went to Chris Penn.
Chris Penn.
Was who they hired, and we shot with him.
Yeah.
A lot of days.
Oof.
And it wasn't working.
It just did not come out the way they'd hoped.
No, it made you feel really sorry for Stifler. And I felt it on the set.
Yeah.
And they and JB, who directed that one, who was our first AD on the first film,
right.
who was also the Farrelly Brothers' first AD.
JB Rogers, right?
JB Rogers from he was the first AD for Something About Mary and for Dumb and Dumber. I remember he even got a cake when they hit $100 million for Something About Mary. We were shooting American Pie at the time, and the Farrelly Brothers sent a congratulations cake because those guys apparently didn't even know when to say action or cut. They were just we just know what's funny.
Right.
So JB hired a lot of the actors that they worked with to be the buddies. And I don't know, Chris is a great actor, but he just kind of was a tinge on the serious side, I guess. And I mean, there was even a scene in the original, which they changed later to be with Stifler's mom, where if you remember, like Finch is like going tantric the whole time.
Yep.
And he ends up unleashing on Stifler's mom at the end of the film. But in the original draft, he was like in a meditation thing, and Stifler's dad's like, "Hey, buddy, you got to loosen up," and gives him a back rub, and he unloads. And so you can just imagine, like, with an actor playing it, I guess, too serious. I don't know where the discord was, but it just didn't work.
No, sometimes on paper, an idea looks great, and then even with the most talented of actors, it just doesn't come out.
But I'm saying, like, you know, not many people could be Stifler as Sean William Scott was. And that's why, again, I equate it to like the first choice with Bill Paxton as Chet. Like he embodied that sort of like can say asshole things and it be really like funny and somehow weirdly endearing. Right. You put it in like me, if I played that role, it would just be all sorts of wrong. I have a little bit too much like, I don't know, I got like my left foot in drama and my right foot is just sort of toeing the water of comedy. So like certain kinds of comedy work for me, but not those.
It's definitely you know, as a thespian, I can see where that would be problematic for a lot of actors.
I could put it this way: there was a moment on American Reunion on set where Jason, who is pretty outlandish, like on set, and the antics that he'll do to get a rise out of people, and it was basically like pretend. Wow, this is okay. Remember, this is 5 years ago. This is before. Whatever. This is Jason. I don't care.
Yeah.
So he would do this like fake masturbation thing, like and then pretend like he was like looking at someone, and it was like this whole funny thing, and it was this ongoing joke.
Okay.
So he'd be like, oh, like, hey Tom, you look good in that shirt. Oh yeah, Tom, you look good in that shirt. Oh yeah, and like this is this joke, and it was an ongoing thing. So and at some points they would do it. You like that? You like that?
That was a good save.
Those Jedi reflexes as I almost spilled my glass of water. I'll move that over there. Okay. So they would do that, him and Eddie, because they're kind of like the dynamic duo. They know each other from before those films, from New York and all that stuff. So they would kind of like try to make me crack up sometimes during my close-ups. Like just, we're just having fun.
That's what young actors do to one another.
But it's the fourth movie. You know what I mean?
There's history. And
we're just having a good time and trying to bring the life into it. And so I tried it back on them. And it did not land well, to the point where one of the producers came up to us like, guys, this antic that's happening on set, like it needs to stop. There were passersby that have complained. And like, I mean, Jason has been doing this for fucking weeks. Weeks. We're talking like 4 weeks. I do it one time and I get the classroom in trouble.
Wow.
I'm not that kind of funny. We have a different kind of funny.
I guess it's just subtlety is not...
It's not so much subtlety. It's just like there's a sense of realism in my artistic sort of presentation. So it probably just looked like I was really masturbating. Yeah. Whereas like when Jason did it, it was clearly a joke.
Clearly a joke. Sure. Well, I think you just need more practice with the real thing.
No, that's apparently I have too much practice because it was, couldn't differentiate the faking it from the really.
I understand. I saw American Reunion in Atlanta. I remember this because I was shooting there on a television series which had an 8-day shooting schedule, and they wanted me on day 1, which fell on a Friday, and then day 8, which fell the following Tuesday. And they refused to let me fly myself back to Los Angeles for the week in between in case they needed me for cover.
Right.
So I had 10 days off in Atlanta, which is nothing to do.
Which is where we shot American Reunion.
I was well aware. I saw the movie twice in the theater that I could walk to from my hotel, and then I was like, I think I'm going to take a tour and find some of these locations.
No, come on.
No, I didn't do the second part.
I was going to say, because you could find they actually left that mural up in Conyers. Oh. The one we drew on the wall that looks like East Great Falls, which is really Grand Rapids. Right. So there's the real wall in Grand Rapids, and then there's the one that they left in Altadena. And now, so we've got 3 of those walls, East Great Falls halls.
So you guys are just marking all of the United
graffiti
States,
artists,
one city at a time. That's phenomenal. All right, we've talked about it a little bit, but you're producing now.
Yes,
and have been for a couple of years already.
Well, technically 10, but not that I'm counting.
No, who counts that sort of thing?
No.
So you have a legit production company, and so what got you interested in that?
And thank you, by the way, for coming to support the premiere.
My absolute pleasure. Living Among Us is your latest,
yes.
It was in theaters. It's on VOD certainly right now.
Yeah, it was a Sony day and date release. So we got picked up by Sony and Vision Films, and so yeah, it came out in select theaters. And then went on like pay-per-view and every, VOD, which is funny when you type VOD into like a tweet and people are like, what's that?
Come on.
Well, people don't know.
I guess, I don't know.
So for those of you that think it's like some sort of STD, it's not. It's video on demand.
Right. Soon to be. An STD coming to you soon.
coming to a television screen to you soon.
Yes.
So it came out everywhere. And I think the horror critics love it. Audiences are digging it. We still got a pretty high rating on Rotten Tomatoes from audiences. Great. The regular critics are panning us because it's technically a horror film and they don't really like genre pieces like that or that genre.
Yeah, no, that doesn't. Those you don't make those for critics. You make those for the audience.
Right. This one in particular was designed to be a touch on satire, but more in my vein of like, playing it straight, not for the satire, not for the comedy. Right. A popcorn flick, if you will. Right. A fun ride, a new twist on vampires. Sure, yeah. And if you want to get highfalutin, which we can.
Okay.
Would you call it a found footage film?
It's
a found footage style.
I would say it's in the vein of a found footage.
Now, technically speaking, because we have a well-known cast, it's technically inspired by French New Wave.
Ooh.
So long takes.
Yep.
Your main character is anti-authoritarian, which is my character, sort of going against his boss the whole time. And also disruptive in the process of presentation, constantly reminding you that you're watching a movie, and that's what all those glitches are for.
Right.
To constantly just, hey, it's a movie. Hey, just so you don't forget. So, but you're still drawn into the story. So it's a movie within a movie kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So we call it American New Wave.
I like it. I like it very much. And it's got several amazing actors in it, including the late, rest in peace, John Hurd.
Yeah.
Is this his last released film? Does he have anything else in the can?
He may. I mean, I see like on his IMDb page, and obviously, didn't have a chance to ask him about those other projects, but I see like some other ones that are in sort of post phases. So there may be some other ones that come out.
But this is
the last thing that he worked on. We did ADR with him on a Monday in July last year. He had told us that he had back surgery and gave me the date. And I said, well, John, I'd like to do your ADR before then because even though it's an outpatient thing, I don't want to like be bugging you during your recovery. And if it takes longer, we got these deliverables to Sony. So can we just schedule it before your back surgery? Yeah. We'll just need you for like a 4-hour session. So he agreed. We did it on Monday. Back surgery was on Wednesday. News came out on Friday.
Oh, man.
And it was crazy because I had worked with John 28 years ago on Radio Flyer.
You played, no, don't tell me, Ferdy.
You look at you.
Yeah.
Man, this is one amazing drunken research night that you have because you do better than most.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah. You should consider doing a podcast.
I've thought about it. So you worked with John on Radio Flyer back in, when did you shoot that, 91?
1989.
Radio Flyer was shot in 89 but not released till 92?
Was it? I mean, yeah.
It's possible.
It was because the first cut that Dick Donner released. Now, there also was the writer of Radio Flyer tried to direct it the first time. They got 2 weeks into production. And
was that Dave Mickey Evans?
Yes, David Mickey Evans. They canned everybody.
Wow.
Recast the whole thing, brought in Dick Donner. That's when Elijah Wood and Joe Mazzello and Lorraine Bracco and John Hurd. Yeah. And Tom Hanks wasn't even in that rendition of it because the first cut was 4.5 hours.
Oh, boy.
So
that's a lot of radio and flying.
My big scene with just with Elijah and Joey ended up on the cutting room floor next to Rhea Perlman, who was the Frog Lady.
Oh, that's right.
And so then they added in Tom Hanks to sort of explain all the missing parts.
Sure, yeah, you gotta make some sense out of that 3 hours of missing footage.
Yeah, so that might be why it took an extra year or two to be released.
I guess so. That makes sense.
Because they would have needed to re-edit and then add Tom Hanks. So yeah, because I was definitely 9 when I shot that.
Wow. So did John remember you guys working together on Radio Flyer?
I don't necessarily know. I didn't have any scenes with him really. I was just one of the kids.
Okay.
You know, I'm sure I had like pictures, but I didn't like, you know, pull them out of my photo album. Like, hey, John, remember?
Right, yeah.
It was one of those things where I ran into him at a convention in LA and I sort of said, hey, you know, I don't expect you to remember me. I was just one of the kids. And he's like, oh, yeah, you know, Radio Flyer. And I was like, you know, we've got a film coming up. And he goes, so here's my number.
Great.
And it's just amazing to me that the people that I really that have these great careers, sometimes, you know, the agents make it so difficult to just let awesome people work. And then, you know, you connect with someone and they're just like, oh, here you go. Give me a call.
Right.
Let me know.
Yeah. That's the secret of Hollywood that people don't like to talk about is anytime you see like a giant star in like a tiny little independent film, you can almost bet that whoever got that script to them had to go around their agent.
Right.
Because agents do not want their $10 million clients doing $1 million movies.
How do they expect us to actually become quote-unquote name talent if they just bounce everyone at the gate?
It is one of the catch-22s of our industry, my friend. How do you get big if they won't let you do the movies that make people actually want to see you in the movies? Yes, that's one for the ages.
I mean, somewhere like that. William Sadler's agent was great when
that's great.
You know, we didn't get bounced at the gate. And obviously at that point, I mean, he's already got an illustrious career.
Oh my God, yeah. What's your favorite Bill Sadler role?
Oh, Shawshank, of course.
I go Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
As Death.
Come on!
He is pretty good at that. But I was one of the early fans of Shawshank. I saw it in...
You used to see them when they toured before they were big, man.
I saw it in theaters 7 times.
Wow.
It was a box office failure.
Yes, it was.
Every time I took someone with me, I went to matinees, I went to, you know, evening showings, there was never anyone in the theater. Every showing I went to. Wow. So I remember, you know, now you can see it on like everyone's Facebook page. Favorite films, Shawshank Redemption.
Well, sure.
It's like, come on, you weren't there. You weren't there.
You used to follow that tour all up and down the East Coast, man. You slept in your van to see them. Well, that's very awesome.
I did see them at the Cow Palace, by the way.
Fish. Oh, nice. I've seen, for a guy who is not a Fish fan, I've seen more Fish shows than I care to talk about.
So then you probably know Matt Carey.
I'm sure I do. I saw Fish. I was dating an old longtime girlfriend who's a big fan, so we went to many concerts together.
Adam Hers is a big Fish fan, and Trey Anastasio. So we've been to a couple, like to the Hollywood. I think we went to the Hollywood Bowl together to see Trey's side band.
Ooh. Well, speaking of side bands, again, I'm a master of segues. I cannot stress this enough. So in addition to your hat as an actor and your hat as a producer, you have also been a longtime musician. And you've got the Tin Band.
I do.
And I would love to hear about the genesis of that and what you guys are up to.
It is actually the 10-year anniversary of my first album this year.
Wow. So the same time you started producing?
Yeah, I think so. Well, no, I guess my first film that I produced was in 2002.
Ooh.
I think I did a short film that year that I wrote, produced, directed, starred in, that we used to raise the financing for the feature, and then we went and did that one, same thing, wrote, produced, directed, starred in. That was LA DJ the movie, which I believe illegally is still on Netflix. They only signed like a 5-year deal, but somehow it's still there.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Yeah. I remember that the distributor actually never paid us.
Okay.
I sued him and won.
Oh.
And I won the lawyer bill. It was great.
Yep.
It was like, that's what I call my film school.
Yeah.
Learning the real true business.
Yeah, how to get stiffed on a judgment 101.
Yeah, so that was back in 2002. That came out in 2004. I started playing music when I was 14, but I released Without Warning, obviously 10 years ago, 2008. That was the first time that I was really happy with the sound I had created. You'll never hear the first 3 albums.
Never.
I've destroyed all copies.
Oh, wow.
I actually, because so I tried to get a song in the soundtrack of American Pie. I had finished my first album right before American Pie, right before I went to shoot American Pie. So I gave it to Paul and Chris Weiss, and they're like, "Yeah, sure, we'll put a song in the soundtrack."
Right.
And Gary Jones, who will remain nameless, was the music supervisor.
Not sure if you know what words mean, but go on.
He was the music supervisor, married to Stacy Seifert, the head of development at Universal. Yeah. And he cockblocked me. Oof. And even though Paul and Chris said yes, he said no.
Right.
And so at the time, so I got a deal anyway with a record company, and they got Tower Records to order 3,000 copies of the record. And I thought, oh, cool. So I went with the record company and helped them. We put stickers on every single album because we knew it was going to hit Tower Records the same time American Pie was hitting theaters.
Yeah.
Distribution company went belly up.
Oh,
Tower Records sent back all 3,000 copies.
Bitch.
I had ordered 5,000 because that was the good price break.
Yep.
I kept them in storage from 1998 up until about 3 years ago, and I just paid to have them all destroyed.
No, you should have sent them to Africa.
Why?
Well,
no one needs to hear this record. No. It's not good anymore.
Well, no, it's like when
I was 17. It's it deserved to not be heard.
Whenever they know what teams are playing in the Super Bowl or the World Series, they have to print up shirts calling both teams the winners, so that as soon as it's decided, they can start.
Sam, I don't know if you know this, but you can't wear a CD.
Well, what I'm saying is. It's my understanding, I've never been, but, the Red Cross and stuff, they will take these shirts that, say, who would it be? The Los Angeles Dodgers, World Series champions 2017. And they take them to, unfortunately, poorer nations that need that kind of stuff, and they'll just give those clothes out.
Well, I think that's amazing. First of all,
yes, I think it's great too. And they're sold. They're gifted under explicit, these can never be sold. They can never come back to the United States for good reason. But I feel like that's where the copies of these CDs should be. So
if they could have been, if someone could have built a house out of them, or they could have kept someone warm or been clothed. Yes.
Okay.
But not for a CD.
I think they also need, and sound entertainment.
Not this sound entertainment. You'll never hear these.
Well, this makes me very sad. This is going to be like what was was it not E.T.? Was it E.T. the game, Sam? Was it the E.T. game from Atari that was so dreadful they had to take 70,000
and
copies of it?
And they just found a bunch of them in a landfill a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so that's what it was. That's the landfill.
That's why I paid to have them destroyed. Shredded.
All right.
Plastic fodder.
Wow. Buried, covered in lime, never to be seen again.
Exactly.
Salt the earth! All right. Well, that's fine. So, but tell me about the band nowadays. I know you guys just had a great show literally last night at the Whiskey A Go-Go.
Yes.
Here in LA. And what's next for the Tin Band?
We've released 6 albums. Amazing. Over the last 10 years.
And you've toured, by my count, and, I never miss a show. By my count.
Except for last night.
Except for last night and the last several years before that. It seems like you guys have literally done in the neighborhood of 400 live shows at this point?
I think probably over 600 at this point. I got to update the website. As I was about to tell you, and I realized maybe it says that somewhere in there. Yeah, we've toured over. We do a lot of shows in the UK. I'm going back to Europe again at the end of the year, November.
That's awesome.
We do a lot in the Midwest. I always do something.
Always do it in Chicago.
Yeah. You see, that it would have been very easy for you after I sang the 7th inning stretch, Sam, to just walk across the street.
I know.
To HVAC, where I would have been hanging out and playing, and just come and said hi.
I blew it. I didn't have your number at the time.
You didn't need my number. It's across the street from Wrigley. Across. I had plans. They have good pizza there.
I had post-show plans.
So with
Ryan Dempster.
Okay.
Obviously. Yeah, my close personal friend Ryan Dempster. We hang out. We do a Sunday brunch every week. Me, him.
I wasn't talking about Sunday brunch. I was talking
Franco.
About it's usually on a Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, I know. I blew it. Well, you know what? Obviously, my luck is good, so I'm certainly going to see you again at Chicago.
Next time I'm throwing out the first pitch or singing the 7th inning stretch, I'm going to get to the stadium and be like, Sam, are you here?
Yeah, tell me where your seats are. I'll wave.
No, I'll bring you down to the field.
Well, I mean,
you've been down on the field.
I have,
yeah.
But
you can always come down if
I
I'm
would
there.
love to. Thank you. There is, in my humble opinion as a Chicago Cubs fan, there is no more magical place than being on the field at Wrigley.
Yeah,
that is like 100 Disney Worlds to a guy like me.
It's quite like it reminds me. I get like a flood of memories just even when I step my foot onto there.
Yeah.
It's also much warmer than it was because I'm usually out there in the summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've been touring around. Like I said, the recent album is Frat Party, which I decided to do something fun for fans and picked all my favorite songs from the American Pie soundtrack, including my own.
My Generation.
Which we got on the American Reunion soundtrack.
Right.
That one I won out, not by making the call, because Gary Jones cockblocked me on the second one, too. He was the music supervisor on that one.
Yeah.
So you'll never hear that album. That was an EP.
Nope.
American Wedding, I was up against some heavy hitters since it was, what's his name? Not Jacob, who's in the Wallflowers, Jesse Dillon, Bob's other son,
I had no
who
idea.
directed American Wedding. And so, he was pulling favors from like Van Morrison, so I didn't have a chance in hell. Snowball's chance in hell. And so I played the Rap Party, actually, for American Reunion. And that was when Hayden, one of the writers, I went to get a drink and he goes, "Wow, you don't suck. Hey, do you think you could like cover a song?" Because I was trying to get laid because obviously James Band did the original and then Matt Nathanson for the sequel. Right. I was like, cool. I did my own version. I recorded it with the band, played it live acoustic at the show.
Right.
And I was working an angle, but I was just doing the slow play.
Yeah.
And
Laid is the name of the song, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get my rendition, and then they asked me if I could cover someone else. And I was like, let me know, I'll cover them. And then they chose an original.
Amazing.
So
I love it.
when Sean or Stifler sticks his fingers in my mouth, my song is playing in the background at the bar.
That's
the irony.
If only they'd had it on set that day for you to use as inspiration.
That was my idea, by the way.
Yeah.
The script just had him touching my beard.
That's amazing.
And Sean is so funny.
Yeah.
I sidebarred him and I said, "Hey, Sean, don't say anything, but on the next take, I said, when you do the whole, 'Hey, Kevin, is that a pussy on your face?' I'm going to say, 'Oh, come on.' And when I say 'come on,' I want you to do a finger dipstick test."
Amazing.
In my mouth. And he goes, "What?" I was, and, fuck, I can't, no, I'm not sticking my, I was like, I promise you, this will slay. And he didn't. The next take came and he didn't do it. I was like, "Sean, I promise you." He did on the next take. The whole place lost it. And if you notice, it's a trailer element.
It is absolutely. It's a trailer moment.
Yeah.
Boom.
And I didn't tell anyone but Sean. It was just like a little gag between us.
Okay.
It was pretty funny. Little tidbit of how I got Sean William Scott to stick his fingers in my mouth.
That's amazing. I'm going to hold my next question then. Sam, I warned you about this almost 90 minutes ago. Do you have any questions you'd like to sneak in for our guest before I let him get out of here?
I do, actually. You had a guess at where Henry would end up from Rookie of the Year if there was a sequel or picked up now. Do you have an idea where Calvin would be from Kid and King Arthur's?
Ooh. Calvin, Mr. Calvin Fuller. Did you ever see the sequel?
No, I didn't.
There is a sequel.
I know. Well, I didn't see it, but I do know it exists.
But if they were to pick it up now,
that was with Rona Mitra as my love interest.
Oh.
That was a fun one. She got some work done in between shooting and reshoots.
That must have been interesting.
Yeah. Where would Calvin Fuller of Reseda be? I think he would have to still be in Reseda. I think he would. In the second one, he was the deliverer. It was a kid in Aladdin's palace, and he worked at a pizza shop. So I would say he'd probably be running that pizza shop by now.
Yeah. God, you'd think. I mean, after having mastered time travel, you'd think some higher aspirations
would have brought something back.
Yeah.
Where could he have gone next?
I don't know. Maybe Nazi Germany changed a few things. To me, that every time travel movie, it's like, hey, we discovered time travel. Cool. Are we going to stop the Nazis? Nah. Nah, we're fine. But that was an excellent question, Sam.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
I think we keep him in Reseda.
Keep him in Reseda with Daniel LaRusso. He's all right.
Helping LaRusso push his mom's station wagon.
Yep. All right, so I was going to ask this before, but I'm glad I got Sam's question. So this is my last question. So with what you were just telling me, that story about Sean Scott and sticking the fingers in your mouth, it sounds like maybe directing, which I know you've done already, but do you have more aspirations for that in the future?
I do.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I obviously, with Red Compass Media, my deal with Brian A. Metcalf is he is a director, writer, and producer. And my deal is to produce and act in the films. So obviously we did The Lost Tree, which came out in theaters in October. That's out on all platforms. And then Living Among Us is the follow-up, obviously out on all platforms. Strange Ones is one that we have on the slate sort of next.
Great.
As well as maybe some other things I can't quite talk about yet.
That's all right.
But some exciting stuff. I know we're developing a neo-noir crime drama.
Ooh.
But again, these will all be things that I'm producing and acting in. I also signed on to produce and act in a movie called Bitcoin later this year.
It's about
we're shooting
Ethereum?
It's
a joke for you crypto nerds.
It's kind of like Pineapple Express,
okay,
but with like a straight-laced sort of dad who's just trying to like save his family and his house, but gets like wound up in the whole crypto space with sort of. I mean, before this, I read the script before like Bitcoin sort of exploded on the scene.
Got it.
But a lot of people still don't understand cryptocurrency.
Nope.
So his goofy, messed up brother-in-law is like, I know how we can exchange this Bitcoin account that we found that was on a dog tag into real money by like using it to buy illegal substances and then selling those to get other illegal substances and eventually turn it into money. So we end up with like everyone after us.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, I hope I can't wait to have that one get made so I can see it.
I have another one actually that I'm producing and acting in called Handbook for Mortals. That's based upon a book. That was the meeting I had just actually before I came here. So that we're in the financing sort of attachment stages, meeting with directors on that one. So it's a woman-based project. We're looking for a female director. I do not fit the bill. I am signed on to direct a sort of a 70s cop movie in New York.
Ooh, hey Serpico.
Yeah, it's in the vein of like Serpico and the 7-Ups and
the 7-Ups.
Yeah.
By the way, most people have never heard of that movie. Seek it out. I encourage you to. It is one of the greatest car chase scenes of all time. Rivals that of The French Connection.
Yes, and also Across 110th Street. Is the one that it was really inspired by. Lou Martinelli Jr. wrote the script.
Yeah.
You probably would have seen him in The Sopranos. He's done a bunch of other things as well. So I'm pegged to direct that one.
That's great.
We've got some eyes and some like good folks to play the dad. So just waiting for schedules to line up.
Sure.
And there's some other ones that I have on the. I have another one actually. This one's pretty funny.
All right.
We just finished the pitch for this one, and we've got some financiers looking at it. It's called Stealing Tom Nichols. So I'm basically going to make fun of myself. I kid you not, my name, it seems really simple. 3 first names, Thomas, Ian, Nicholas.
Sure.
It gets mispronounced all the time.
All the time.
And this is going to kind of be a play on Stealing Sinatra. It was originally Stealing Paul Rudd when it was written, so I've replaced Paul Rudd.
Sure.
And I'm going to actually play myself and direct it. And it's basically like I am thought to be kidnapped, and it sort of in the movie, like my career is going into the abyss, and I lose out on the Ron Howard film because I lose my shit on a television interview.
Yep.
I'm thought to be kidnapped, and I end up on TMZ, and then like Ron Howard's like calling like, I know you're tied up right now. It's like kind of that whole thing. So then I sort of keep the idea going that I'm kidnapped to reinvigorate my career.
Terrific. I'm on board. I sign off.
Well, you should come and there's a lot of cameo stuff in there. I'm available. You'll be hearing from me about that one.
I'm fairly certain I'll be available. All right, so real quick before I let you get out of here, where can the kids find you? on the social medias?
Besides here in the podcast room with you?
In this podcast room for at least the next 3 minutes. Where else can they find you?
I'm online. I'm on all social media platforms. My name's too damn long for everything.
Okay.
So I use the acronym TIN Band, T-I-N, Band, B-A-N-D.
That's easy to remember.
A lot of people get confused. They think that I'm only doing music now and not acting, but I'm doing it all.
Jack of all trades.
Yes, a renaissance man, as it were, at least a pretend one. So yeah, it's at TIN Band for Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat.
Oh, all right.
Not that I'm on my Snapchat. I basically Snapchat me barbecuing. That's
you got to cover all your bases when it comes to that. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for the great stories and the fun trips down memory lane.
Thanks for your like amazing research.
Oh, thank you very much.
As well as the question that I'm sure I'll be hearing from James about, like, of course I drove.
Yep.
He probably did drive.
We'll get to the bottom of this. Don't worry. I'll fix it in the next episode.
We went over a speed bump doing like 45.
I don't know. You know what? Maybe he remembers it differently. That's
I'm just going to answer that question now and just say great, not greatest.
Okay. Well, that's the answer. All right. Well, I have a few people to thank real quick, and they are. First, I want to thank the Dark Overlords here at Earwolf. I would like to thank Sam, our magnificent technical director of the day. I would like to thank the people that helped make this show. Jason McIntyre, head writer Jamie Foxx, Corey Levin on post, and of course, Mr. Chat Show himself, Kevin Elliott Pollock. I hope you are having fun in Canada. That is it for us. So we will see you at a chat show soon. Until then, fuck off.